Welcome to United Shades of Gray, Conversations of Race in America on WSGW. Now, here is your host, Kareem Bowen.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another edition of United Shades of Gray, Conversations of Race in America. We are excited that you guys continually tune in and listen to what it is that we're saying. For a long time, we were wondering, does anyone really care what we're talking about? But we find as we're having conversations in the community and other places that you guys actually do care. So we appreciate your continued listenership and viewership if you're watching us via social media on one of the many social media platforms, or if you're catching us wherever it is that you gather your content via podcast. And Jonathan, our producer, who's the other young man that's in the stream, is going to show you where you can get that content.
Hello. The best way to find it is go to WSGW.com, click on shows, find United Shades of Gray, or click on podcasts. That's even easier. And you can find it on Spotify, on Apple Music, on some other places that I'm not remembering right now.
So you can get it out there. We're excited to be to have it out there and available to you. Jonathan is the guy that makes it happen, so we greatly appreciate his assistance in that. As you see, I'm sporting the green and the white gold Spartans. There's a team that's on the bank of the river. Its specialty is known. The Spartans play good ball. You know the entire song. I know all of the words, but I'm so excited. I don't know what that looks like, what that's for.
Nothing.
But we're celebrating a victory. I went to the last game that they had, and it was a nail biter. It was a barnyard burner. It was a good game. They didn't play the best, and we see that there is a lot to hope for.
Ever? Sorry.
Yes, they do. But this was not that time. But it was a great game. 2 overtimes. Winning by 2 points. It was great to be there for that. I mean, it was like midnight. By the time I got home, it was almost 1:30 in the morning. But it was a great time. So shout out to all of my Spartans, to those who are making things great all around the world, who share that Spartan connection. And to my other people, I just want you to understand that yellow and blue always makes green. But here we are here today with Jonathan. Jonathan, we're going to talk a little bit today. There's so much that is going on, but we're going to talk about a number of things. I want to talk and have a conversation. I was going to say a conversation with Black America, but it's a conversation with all America, because all of us are tied to the same history, and all of us are part of that fabric that is woven, that is America. And so I just really think it's important for us to have a meaningful conversation about the events and the details and everything that's going on, all of the things. Unless you have been under a rock, which many Americans have been, because they don't watch TV. But if you're on social media, most people who don't consume TV or any of the mainstream media outlets are still get their information. They get it on social media. And oftentimes, if you want news, you get it quicker on social media than you actually do from the media outlets. But I want to talk a little bit really about Charlie Kirk, who was I don't know how to address him, an activist, a political pundit, how would you define
activist is reasonable.
An activist. I think no one would argue with him being an activist, who really, I mean, just, I think his voice, his opinion, his blunt perspective and style and refusal to take back whatever he said. These are things that I admire. Now, I'm not crazy. I'm not one of those people who hates people, and there's nothing that I can look in and say, hey, I appreciate this. I appreciate people who speak their truth. I appreciate people who are willing to stand their ground and speak boldly about what they believe in. I think that one of the problems or issues I have with our country right now is that there are not enough people who are willing to really just say how they feel and say what they mean. You know what I mean? Mean what they say and say what they mean. Now, that doesn't mean that I agree with him, but the thing that I want to say first before we start this conversation, there have been a number of people who have been celebrating his death, and I think that is it's weird to me, and weird is the only word that I can come up with in the moment.
I prefer disgusting, abhorrent, evil, but
those words work.
Yeah.
But I have to give some pause to using it. I use the word weird because I think that it is disgusting and appalling whenever we celebrate people's demise of any sort. Okay, that's black, white, hatred, skinhead, cake, any of those things. I mean, some people. Well, there are some times in history that I think I probably wanted to tap dance on some graves. I'm just joking, but kind of seriously. But I think it's weird. Okay, in this modern day time in which we live, I think it's weird when we see these things take place. And let me explain to you why. Because um, politics, be it as they were, we see political parties, we see ideologies, ideas, all of those things change over time. We've seen Democrats, Republicans be the party of the formerly enslaved African American descendants of slaves. We've seen now a shifting to where, well, then we saw a shift where the Democratic Party was a place that those same individuals found a quote unquote safe haven for their issues and ideas. And so, what I mean is that opinions, thoughts, ideas, we've seen people grow beyond positions based upon more information. Um, so, I don't celebrate when people have their demise because at the end of the day, politics is politics, but human life is sacred. And so I think that that is the first thing that I would like to say. Now, what I will say, and the reason I use the term weird versus the other very strong words that you use, Jonathan, is because there were many times, and in one particular occasion, I remember Mr. Kirk. And so, thoughts and prayers to your family, to your kids, to children, and to me, the real tragic victim in this whole thing are the children, not just his children, but all of the children that are continually exposed to gun violence in our nation. And I say this: if you are an opponent to gun violence, you're an opponent to gun violence no matter who gets killed. Because I think that we are a nation that this has become such a normal thing. When I look at the responses, the fact that we can make fun of or degrade the loss of human life is problematic to me, just as a person. But what I think is the response and what we're seeing from many Americans is the fact that he was a man who made statements such as, some people dying in the cause of gun violence is good for the cause, or it's the casualties of it.
That quote has been taken way out of context.
Well, I'm gonna let you say what you want to say because I can add that with other things.
Yep.
And so what I'm saying in my input, this is the empathetic side of Kareem speaking in the moment, not Jabbar. And so what I mean by that is this, and he said it, and you can use whatever terms you'd like to clean it up or to give it a different light, and that's fine because I think there are always two shades of light, two hues on each story. But the things that I'm saying, and that I've heard him say in context, and I'm a person who goes before and after and looks at what's being said, but to utter the fact that any life that is lost for the purpose of gun crimes as being good, it is good for the cause, for the Second Amendment, is problematic, no matter how you spin it. And so I think that when you make comments like that, we put those words into the atmosphere, into the universe. It's interesting when, in the terms of Martin Luther King and Malcolm X, not Martin Luther King, that sometimes your chickens will come home to roost. Now, I will yield and let you categorize those words that he said or put them in context.
He never said it was good.
That was exactly what he said. That was a word.
He said it was acceptable.
Acceptable.
Okay.
And good.
The comparison that he was making in that speech, in that talk, had to do with the point of the Second Amendment, and it was to protect the liberty of the people against a tyrannical government. That's Absolutely. The point of the Second Amendment.
Absolutely.
The other comparison that he made there was driving. 50,000 Americans die in automobile accidents every year, and yet we accept that because of the convenience and the freedom that driving brings. In the same way, we have a Second Amendment which enshrines and assures the right to keep and bear arms in this country, and we accept that there will be violence involving guns.
And I think that it's bad when a country accepts. It's problematic. And if you are,
because people are,
if you're an American and you accept the fact that children, Sandy Hook, all of the other Parkland, all of these places, even here in Michigan, if you accept the fact that, hey, the fact that our kids are going to die at the hands of guns it's okay because we want to protect gun legislatures and the NRA. I think it's problematic. And if you're an American that's willing to accept the fact that our kids are dying at a rate that they are, then okay, then I guess America is in a greater state of demise than I really would think, because I think that one of the key phrases that makes America amazing is that clause where it says that all Americans have the right to the pursuit of liberty and pursuit of happiness. And when a nation, we are the most violent nation in the world as it relates to guns. We have more guns than we have citizens. We own more guns than any other population in the world. And yet we have this pervasive thing that I have to hold on to my guns, and the safety of my guns and being able to have those guns is more important than the sanctity of human life. I have a problem with that. And I'm a gun owner. I believe I was raised. We use guns. We shot guns. We did all of those things. I enjoy guns. When I went to Arizona, they have the ability to use certain guns that we don't. I enjoyed them in the space that they were allowed. However, I do understand the importance of the need to regulate some things. I understand common sense gun ownership. I don't know what this young man's state is, but I mean, I think that whenever you make the decision to kill somebody, there's something mentally wrong, mentally off. The right side, Republicans have long been people who said, hey, we have to have these concerns around us. So I think that's important. So the sanctity of human life is what I was saying. And so those words are his words, regardless of how we like to shade them or color them.
He was a man of faith who understood that people are evil.
That is,
and that any right, any liberty that we have can be abused. And it will be abused by evil people.
Okay. So let's talk about that, because I woke up to that conversation. I didn't wake up to it, but as soon as after I started my day and I was thankful, a dear friend of mine that I consider a friend and a brother, I recently spoke at a men's conference for him. He made a post about, the horrific nature of what took place. And he began to say, Charlie Kirk was a powerful man of God and a man who was living by his faith. Now, this is what I want to say about white America's faith, because it's problematic for me, and it has been problematic since 2020. And this is a real conversation. I'm a person who believes that my faith, that love covers a multitude of sins. I believe what the word of God says is real. Therefore, my life, my decisions, and how I function is not conditioned by political situations. It's not even conditioned by racial thoughts, but it's conditioned by the fact that God requires that we would love one another as we would love ourselves. We treat our brothers better than we treat ourselves. So the problem that I had with that post, Pastor, and the pastor understands who he is that there has been a crack in, I would say, the religious morality of many white Americans as it relates to the condition and the statement and the treatment of Black Americans. I was mortified, and I have been struggling since 2020 on the fact that many white Americans seemingly to me serve a different God than I do, because I would never stand for a Black preacher who continually would demonize white Americans. I would never stand for a Black preacher who would continually be racist toward white folk. But this is how we have been as a people since y'all met us as colonizers, not y'all, but y'all white folks have met us as colonizers coming to the many multifaceted countries and nations of the continent of Africa, because Africa is not one country. It is many countries on one continent. And what I think is problematic is that we have always been forgiving. We have always been loving. We've always been kind. But there are some things that I see happening, especially with our good intending white folk, especially with our white evangelicals. And I'm seeing an embracing of Trumpism and MAGAism as a part of their faith. And I don't understand that, because what is happening is, and I need to make sure that we understand this, and my white brothers and sisters who hear this, let me make something very clear for you today. Oftentimes when they use the term liberals, for somehow there is this narrative that Black folks are liberals. And if we were to really to take a look, when I think of a liberal, in my perspective, when I think of a liberal, I don't think black people. When I think of liberals, I think about my brothers and sisters of the lighter persuasion who are hugging trees and all of those other things. But I don't think black people. And I want to make it clear for those who are out there, because even though, and I see that you're shaking your head, Jonathan, there are a lot of people who may not think that, but I think that there is a narrative that is pursuing and becoming pervasive. That when we use the term liberals, we're talking about the people all the way to the left, who are those crazy white folk, and the black people who want all of these social welfare programs. That may not be the case, but that is how, to me, it is being portrayed. Now, let me give you a real quick lesson on Black America, because there are many values that white America on the right side have in common with Black America. We believe in the sanctity of marriage. We believe in the strength and the importance and the viability of families, and that they are essential to really build strong communities. That is something we believe. We also believe that life is sacred, that we believe, the majority of us believe that birth and life, we believe in the creation story. Many of us, we have various opinions because we are not a monolith, but many of us believe that life and sanctity are important. We believe in the fact that a child should be taken care of, not just as an embryo, we protect it, but we believe that when that embryo becomes 13, 14, 15 years old and maybe walking through a community with a hood on his hat, that he should not be a target or should be shot down, because right to life is not just about in the embryo stage, but it's from birth to grave. We also believe that our community and how we interact, that we are part of this fabric that makes America great. We believe that we should have the ability to own guns and to protect ourselves, and that we believe in this dream that America has given us, and we have actualized that dream. I would say that being some of the most resilient people on this planet, that is one of the reasons why, even with 400 years of a head start given to all of the nations, we still rise like cream, because cream rises to the top. Now, that's what we believe. I just want to help conservative America, very right MAGA, understand that that's what we believe. Because let me explain to you why this is important. It's important because when we look at what took place with Mr. Charlie Kirk, I don't celebrate anybody's death. The black people are not excited. The black people are like, ooh, yeah. I think he was a racist. And I think that it's hard to be well, no, it's not in this country, because we have a lot of racists who hide behind Christianity. As a matter of fact, they used it for a number of years. And if you don't believe it, go, because I think the Vatican has, and I know the Smithsonian, I believe, had what they call the slave book, where certain passages were taken out, like Galatians, that talked about not being bound and being freed under the liberty of Christ. So we've seen Christianity use, and I'm a Christian pastor. Jesus is my savior. Yeshua is my Lord. We've seen Christianity be used. That's why I say I'm not necessarily a Christian. I'm a believer. I would probably empathize with many of the thoughts and the beliefs of Christians, but I believe that believers act on what Christ says. Christians make a religion of it, and they often fall into wrong places. But what I'm saying is that we are not aggressive. We're not angry. We're not mad people. We don't laugh when people die. That is not who we have been. We are not intrinsically violent. One of the things that Mr. Kirk used to say is that black people were very violent people, echoing the sentiment of what one of our nation's president would say about African-American kids, referring to those in Maryland and what's going on, that they were created or born to be criminals. And that as they grow, this is what he said.
No, it's not what he said.
Put it in context for me.
He talked in context of, one, when he spoke about this stuff, it was about these systems that were in place that promoted this stuff, things that you speak out against. He spoke against it for a different reason and from a different angle.
What was the reason? I mean, educate me.
He's talking about mass shooting, like what he said, the last thing he said before he died, gang violence.
Oh, you're talking about Charlie. Okay, go ahead. Okay, go ahead.
Yes.
I thought you were referring to what our president said.
No,
yeah, okay.
I'm talking about Charlie Kirk, who you have accused of being a racist.
He is a racist.
Just today, I watched 3 clips of him speaking with black women, very respectful ways, and promoting what they were saying. In the same way, he was speaking against these issues that you have spoken against. He was taking a different angle, like I said.
What was the angle? I'm curious, because I find, as a person who stands in solidarity. Now, listen, I'm a lover. I get along with anybody. I can work with anybody. I have I got white friends too. But what I'm saying is that I don't take issues with folk who have opinions that are differently.
Mhm.
But when you say that we are more racist than any other nation in the planet, one, you're skewing your statistics and you just don't get the facts. Because if you look at the facts, what the facts will tell you that the most not racist but violent, the most violent individuals in America are white men. I don't like the fact that we're painting a narrative that the problem in Black America is the fact that their fathers are having babies and living their kids, when the fact that the statistics tell us that the most involved American men are Black men in the lives of their family. They're the ones that are most likely to read books to their kids. They're the ones that are most likely to help those children with their homework. They are the ones who are most likely to play ball and do those things. Don't change the narrative and spin the narrative, because when you do that, you become a racist in my eyes, because you're driving a narrative for what purpose? To give an opinion and a thought process about an entire nation of people who are responsible for some of the privileges that you have and have built the communities that you now consider are yours. We're going to take a question words break. When we come back, I'm going to give Jonathan, because I know I got very passionate about what I'm saying. I'm not an angry Black man. I'm a passionate Black man. And what I would like to say is that, yes, we have a beautiful love for the right of life. However, I think that when you think that it's beautiful and it's not a problem, or and some people can be casualties of war for a greater agenda, then it is not surprising that you check out of this place in very much the same way that you have supported. And so that's all I'm saying here. We're going to come back. I'm curious to hear what my brother Jonathan, I want to give him a chance to say what he has to say and to show us where I'm erring in my thinking. The sticks stay, don't go away. We'll be back with more United Shades of Gray.
You're listening to United Shades of Gray on WSGW.
This is Kareem. We're back with more United Shades of Gray, conversations of race in America. If you are coming into this conversation, like, tag, and share this with other folks. I think that we're having conversations that the world is having, but we've been having them in silos, and now we're able to have one together. I'm going to now decrease and allow my brother Jonathan, and I want to say this to those of you who are listening, because many of you say, oh, Jonathan is, but Jonathan, myself, and Mark, we made the agreement that we would have very hard conversations, for the understanding that we can have hard conversations. We cannot agree, but what that doesn't mean is that because we don't agree, we can't be disagreeable, and that we have to be disagreeable. And so even though we have spirited conversations on here and we don't agree, oftentimes what you don't see is that we have conversations afterwards, and we have thoughts, and we come to a place that we understand where the other person is, even if we don't come up to a place of agreeing. So I'm going to decrease, and I want you to go ahead and give some introspection, or a different perspective of some of the things that we were talking about.
I'll come right out and say it. I was a Charlie Kirk fan, and I'm mad. Like that's my reaction. That's the grief that I'm feeling right now, is I am angry. So everything that I say is colored by that. I'll say that up front.
Can I ask this question? No, I won't. It doesn't matter. Go ahead.
But when you talk about things that he said about the Black community, the thing that is misunderstood about the way he spoke was that he spoke against the idea, the policy, the concept, rather than the person, until that person spoke against him. And then he would often go down to that level. But when he's talking about this stuff, he's talking about it in the frame of reference of violence in cities. And yes, he did talk about the importance of family values and the fact that there are policies in place that subsidize single motherhood and the damage that does to Black communities. And he extrapolates that to a large crime rate because of his values, his faith, his conservative values bring him to a place of family being extremely important. You spoke about that in the last segment there. So he was of the belief that family is necessary for building a peaceful society. And when we subsidize single motherhood as a concept, as a policy in the country, it leads to fatherlessness and violence.
And that portion is a very conservative stance, which all of Black America agrees and has been standing on for a very long time. Those aren't the issues, and this is the trouble with politics in America for Black folk. The problem is that the nuanced approach and the understanding of some of the things that you talked about, we agree with. We agree that we want more Black men to be back home in our communities, as I'm sure anyone is, because when we look at the divorce rates and the separation of family, it's not just Black families, it's white families. But we need to talk about how these things existed. And that's where the problem comes, because though you agree that the current state and the policies and the things that exist are not the way that they should be, there's a failure to want to really investigate how they got that way as it pertains to Black America. And let me explain to you what I mean. Because Black men didn't just leave the family, and run away and say, we're no longer going to be fathers to these Black kids. I just gave you statistics and told you numbers that Black men are the most, for Black men, having a son is one of the most important things in the world. And so being present is a part of how we operate as a community. We come from a place, and this will be foreign to other folks who are outside. You hear us use the term village, because that is one of the mentalities that we thrived in, because it's not just one individual that is responsible for the betterment, the growth, and the standard of excellence and success that happens in Black communities. It is the communal approach that we took from our native land. It is one of the things that helped us to thrive when we look at what took place in the 50s and the 60s. It's the thing that helped us to be able to maintain and to survive even through the course of slavery, because we understood that it takes a village to raise a child. So community is important. But what I want to say here is that when we look at this, the problems in the Black community as it relates to family, and I get frustrated because I have a number of my white counterparts who are great friends who always said the problem in Black America is the degradation of the family. And I say that you're absolutely right in many instances. But let's talk about how that happened. And I agree with you. There are many politics when we talk about the social welfare programs that existed. Those programs were things that I wish that would have never happened in Black communities, because we showed with the existence and the building and the foundational ideas of building Black communities before these programs that we were able to do it. All we needed to do was be left alone. We look at policies that took place, and I agree with him in this concept that the policies of social welfare were bad for the communities. But let's talk about this, because it wasn't just the policy, but how those policies were implemented. If there is a social welfare program, Republican MAGA people understand this, because many of y'all get these social benefits, SNAP benefits, all of those things, but we're demonized as Black folks for being the ones who carry the systems. The thing is that they were supposed to be temporary supports. But when I am trying to do better and you see me doing better, don't handicap me by pulling the rug from underneath me and taking away the support that is meant to take me to another standard of living. Let me explain to you what has happened in many of communities where people were forced to be on welfare. I grew up, my mother is a wonderful woman. She's a provider and all those things, single parent home. We were on a welfare program at one point in time. She used it as a tool to better herself. She worked through the process and came up. But what happened in many homes is that, first of all, they give you a benefit for having more kids, but then they also isolate Black men from being in the homes. If you're too young to remember this, but in the 80s, there used to be this thing that if there was a man in the home, they'd come in and look for shoes and things that looked like there was a man in the home. And if there was a man, then they cut away their support that was meant to give you the ability to pull yourself up out of this situation. And I'm using the word pulling yourself up out of the situation because we've never asked for a handout. We asked for a hand up. But whenever the hand was turned in our way, it was usually to push us back down. So those are the things that are problematic. I agree with him on those concepts. But what I don't agree is the demonization of Black women that I saw coming from his mouth with such vitriol, that Black women, and he used women who we consider to be very great women, looking at Michelle Obama and other individuals like her, who were very smart, who are very intelligent, saying that they all were DEI hires. And it's problematic because when we look at the smartest, more informed, well-equipped women in the world, not just women, the most educated population base in America is our Black women. So the fact that just because they're Black in a position, they're demonized is problematic. And it screams racism because you think that it doesn't scream racism. It screams white supremacy. That's what the better term is. So maybe he wasn't empowered to do anything about it, but it screams the fact that if a Black person has a position, then they got it through DEI. But white people intrinsically have the ability to do what it is that they were saying. Now, I'm going to turn and curtail. Rest in peace, wherever you happen to be, man. But anyone who supports racism or white supremacy, and you consider yourself a believer, it is problematic to me. I want you to go back and make sure that we are serving the same God. But I do want to move because I think that there's a bigger situation that we need to address, especially to those. I know that many folks say, I don't get into politics, especially in the Black community, because we've said it forever. My vote doesn't count. And so I don't get into politics. That stuff doesn't matter. This is not the time to be a political fool, to not have an understanding of what is happening in politics. Because I need you to understand that the racism isn't only in people. Nowadays, the racism is in the policy. So it is policy. It is the politics that matter. And what I want to say, the reason I'm saying this is because we need to understand that this nation has had policies that have continually demonized, put Black Americans as third-class citizens in a first world country. And what I mean by that, there are some things that have taken place in our nation recently with the Supreme Court. Have you had the ability to take a look, or are you familiar with what has happened with the most recent ruling that the Supreme Court has made as it relates to ICE?
I have not seen that.
Okay. So in this great nation that we have, ICE has been a major tool that this current administration is using. One of the other things that Black Americans like are safer borders, not because they're taking Black people's jobs because we left the fields in 1865, but because there are benefits that they give to individuals who migrate from other countries, other nations, that they don't extend to folks that they should, who helped build this nation. And so we don't want to talk about the tax credits. We don't want to talk about, the 7 years of free living and all of the things, those things, right? Even how they see us, right? Go see the movie, How They See Us, and you'll get a perspective or a glimpse into what Black America feels. But we believe in these border controls and all of these things. But the Civil Rights Act and what has been happening, Trump has been doing with ICE. He has been using ICE as his personal police to rid our country of illegal aliens. And I think that any American wants any illegal immigrants here that did not come through a legal process. I think that that's how we feel as a nation. That's not a right side. That's not a left side. That's an American side. So let's stop demonizing people for that, because I think at the core, that's what we want. Now, what is problematic is that the MAGA Republicans are demonizing that the others, that all immigrants are bad. And we're learning some of these things because we're going to have a collapse of our cornfields. I think Arkansas is saying, hey, what are we going to do? We're going to be bankrupt because we can no longer compete. We're losing our labor. We're also having to increase prices and can't compete on the global market because of these tariffs. So those are things that Black America understands. But what we also need to understand is that the color of our skin has been problematic as it relates to policy for this nation. And just recently, we've been seeing videos, and if you're on TikTok, wherever you go, it's not only just TikTok mainstream. We have been seeing ICE crack windshields, break windows, checking to see who people are. And it reminds me of the stop and frisk or the black codes back in the day, where just being brown or being Black in America now is a problem, and you have to prove your citizenship. And so what has been happening, and I have a concern about masked ICE workers who are walking around not giving any proof that they work for ICE, because see, there was another time in American history, history repeats itself, when folks were running around with masks on, hooded masks, and saying that they were officers of the law with vigilante justice. And so I think that is problematic because I think some of these folks could easily be MAGA Republicans covering as ICE agents. And that's a problem. Our nation should have a problem when you are thought to be an immigrant based upon the language that you're speaking or the color of your skin. So what the Supreme Court did recently is that it took us back a decade or two, which has always been the case, or 3 or 4. The Supreme Court, the devil is in the policy, the racism is in the policy, just recently ruled, I think it was on the 10th, today's the 12th, like Tuesday or Wednesday, that ICE can use race, ethnicity, and language as tools to determine or to utilize when determine who American citizens are, as a way of investigation, as a way of determining, hey, we need to make sure that they're American citizens. And so in essence, what the Supreme Court has just done was they have justified racial profiling. And if you think for 1 minute that racial profiling is going to stop with what ICE is doing with Mexican Americans, if you really believe that Black Americans, this is why it's time for you to wake up. Before, this was not our fight. Now this is a battle that we need to turn into. And I said before that the attack and what was happening with immigration was really an attempt to draw Black Americans out to stand in solidarity. But many Hispanic Americans told us that they wanted to vote for Trump. And so they got what they were asking for. But what is now happening is that they're using this. So if I can say they're speaking Spanish, they must not be from here. I am bilingual. Yo hablo español muy bien. I write and read Spanish language. So if I'm speaking, am I now going to be questioned because I speak Spanish language? Because in other countries or border countries, I speak to those individuals who speak Spanish in that Spanish country. That is a problem. And so that now leads to what happens. It's traffic stops. We saw this in New York. This is stop and frisk all over again. This is black codes all over again. And for the highest court in the nation, by a 6-3 dissent, Republicans standing together in unity under our king incoming, Donald Trump, is problematic. And so when I look at that, it reminds me of the civil rights cases of 1883, when it was the Supreme Court that ruled once again that the 14th Amendment did not grant Congress the power to prohibit discrimination to private individuals. When I look at it, I'm thinking about Plessy versus Education in 1896. I mean, Plessy versus Ferguson in 1896, where it said that it's okay for states to say that separate but equal is okay. When I think about this decision, it puts me in the mind of the Dred Scott case that put us back decades. Every single time that Black America or other entities have found themselves reaching a place of equal footing, it has been the Supreme Court that has set us back decades. The Dred Scott case, where Dred Scott was a slave in the southern states moving to a free state. I think it was Illinois, from Missouri to Illinois. Illinois had abolished slavery. Hey, I think that I should be able to be free. I'm now a resident in a free country, a free state. I should be able to be free. It was the Supreme Court that said, no. You don't have the right because you are not a citizen. And because you're not a citizen, you don't have the right to be free. And so he had to fight it. The Supreme Court said, nope, they have a right to keep you to be a slave. So the reason I say it's time for us to wake up, it's time for you to understand what's happening as it relates to policy, is because policy is being the tool that is showing up in all of the decisions that are made that are taking away rights, not only to African Americans, descendants of slave, but to our brown brothers and sisters over there. Y'all done messed around and found out that just because you might be a little lighter and you're a Catholic, they still don't want you in many circles. I'm not saying everybody, but there's a pervasive awakening in this place of white male rage. That's what I'm going to call it. And we heard yesterday, white man, wake up, fight back. White man, wake up, fight back. There is a sentiment in many people, and this is not all white folk, but there is a growing sentiment that is now coming to the forefront that white men are angry. I understand it. I saw the movie Falling Down. I always talk about it. I think it was Michael Douglas, Kirk Douglas, one of them, because all of the world and policies are now being made to make you feel that your whiteness and your power is being taken away. I understand where you are, but what I need you to understand is that these policies and these things that are happening, we're not going backwards. Black America, we are not going back to the plantations. We are not going back to the place that we are going to deal with and be okay and acquiesce our power, that we are going to agree to being stopped and frisked. We're not going back. So wake up. I think As President Trump said, the right side, MAGA, Republicans are not going to stand for it. To me, that was a dog whistle. It was a dog whistle framing that what happened in Utah, one of the whitest states in the country, a white man shooting a white man somehow has something to do with Black Americans. And the reason I say that is because there have been threats. There have been threats to HBCUs. For those of you who are not informed, HBCUs, historical Black colleges and university. But what I'm saying is the attack on Brown Americans, it wasn't only about Brown Americans, but it was about drawing Black folks out in Black rage. We said that we're not taking that fight. What we see now happen with the Supreme Court, it is another attack on Black America. What we see happening, a white man kills a white man in Utah, talking about violence. Here we go. And there are Black universities and colleges that are receiving threats, and they're closing down campuses because there was a white man in Utah that murdered a white man who did not like Black people, in my opinion, and that's my opinion. And now HBCUs are the focus of that violence. I think, America, that sometimes our violence and our situations are misplaced. The other thing that I want to say, and I think that this is really interesting, one of the things that I agreed with Mr. Kirk was he dissented from those Republicans who said, hey, let's move on. The Epstein files, nothing to see here. But we saw him say, no, we need to get into the bottom of this Epstein files. Now, there's a story, and I want to say this to y'all that are out there. In the Black community, we always say that's a crackhead move. And what we mean by that is this. If you know any community crackheads, family, we have them. All of us got one in the family, someone who's addicted, but we say, hey, that's a crackhead move. What we mean by this is this. That a crackhead will, they'll take your money. And this is not all crackheads, but this is a story. This is something that we characterize. That they'll take your $20. I'm missing $20. And this is not all crackheads. Listen to what I'm saying. They'll take the $20. They've taken it. And then you say, I'm missing $20. And they'll say, you know what? We'll help you look for it. And then they start searching to help you look for it, understanding that they took it. There's a real situation that I think that we're not looking at. And I think demonizing the others, making the liberals or the Democrats, as they've been saying it on many right source media outlets, is problematic. And this is why. Mr. Kirk had taken the stance that we need to really investigate this situation called the Epstein files, which we know that our current president did not want that to happen. And in that process, they released a dump of files, which is a lot of what we kind of already known. And now he's assassinated, because I think his next step would have been, hey, we need to go further and really get into this. But what's interesting is the response from our current administration was, let's use Air Force 2. Is it what it is? Let's give him a Congressional Medal of Honor. And to me, it almost appears, as we say in the hood, to be a crackhead move. Let's otherize them. Let's come to the support when actually what he was talking about really stands against my own personal interests. That is my particular thought. I think that we need to understand that this situation is heinous. The loss of life by any American is problematic. However, we have to understand that rhetoric and the words that we use, words have power. They are truly the weapons of mass destruction. The words that we use often have a way of coming back and being the thing that cancels us out. This is unfortunate in this particular situation, but I want you all to understand out there, let's not take the bait. Let's understand that if you are truly a believer, if you are truly American, let's stop allowing divisiveness to be given to us by politics in the name of Republicans, Democrats, and everything else in between. But let's understand that if we are truly going to be the United States of America, that we have to understand that we rise and we fall together. Amen. We are not the weakest link. The policies, the narrative, the things that we're seeing are the things that divide. I want you guys to take care of yourselves and each other. God bless you. Grace and peace.